What's up, guys? I'm DK, and you're watching Pro Wrestling What If, the series where I look at the different what if scenarios as terms of the world that we call professional wrestling. This weekend is the 2025 Royal Rumble Premium Live event, and since its inaugural event in 1988, it has become one of the most unique concepts year-round for WWE. But it wasn't until the 1993 event that was won by Yokozuna where the winner got an opportunity for the World Championship at WrestleMania. And for so long, the WWE only had one main World Championship until they created the draft in 2002 that saw its main championship be a part of the SmackDown brand, while the Raw brand had created their own championship, the World Heavyweight Championship. Thus, when it came to the 2003 Royal Rumble event, the winner of the match would have the opportunity to either pick the WWE or World Heavyweight Championship. And depending on who won the Royal Rumble match, sometimes they went on to win the championship at WrestleMania, but sometimes they would end up losing the match. But what if that all changed if perhaps they picked the other world championship? So that's going to be the topic of today's video. We're talking what if the Royal Rumble winner picked a different championship, especially because you guys have been wanting this for quite a while. And if you end up enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share this to all your friends, subscribe, and press the notification bell for when future episodes get released, and leave a comment down below about today's topic or suggesting a future topic for an episode of Pro Wrestling What If. So we're going to start off with the 2003 Royal Rumble, where it was won by Brock Lesnar, which means in this case he'd be going after the World Heavyweight Championship. Now this definitely would have been intriguing because this meant that it would have been Brock Lesnar versus the Game Triple H. I do see, just like in the real timeline, Brock Lesnar ending up walking out as the world champion in the main event of WrestleMania. But this is also a scenario where we have a SmackDown superstar now winning a Raw exclusive championship. And the question is, how long does Brock Lesnar hold this championship? Which I do feel when it comes to the Backlash 2003 event the month after, there would be some sort of multi-man match where Brock Lesnar loses the championship without taking a fall, so that way Monday Night Raw doesn't have to create a second world championship within a span of 1 year. And of course, because he was in the middle of his reign of terror, that person winning the championship would of course be the Game Triple H. The 2004 Royal Rumble was won by Chris Benoit, in which in this case he would go after the WWE Championship. Now the reason it actually made sense that Chris Benoit went after the World Championship is because he wasn't allowed to go for the WWE Championship at the time. SmackDown General Manager Paul Heyman had stated that Chris Benoit was not allowed to challenge for the WWE Championship as long as Brock Lesnar was the champion. And the only way that Chris Benoit can go after that title is to wait until after No Way Out, because that is the night where Eddie Guerrero had pulled off the unthinkable and defeated Brock Lesnar to become the new WWE champion. And so now that there's a new champion, Chris Benoit could then challenge the WWE champion, which then would set a match between Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero for the WWE championship at WrestleMania 20. But what if I could say that maybe we still get the triple threat match, but on the SmackDown brand, by then inserting the Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle? And the way this can easily be done is because in the real timeline, there was a triple threat match between Kurt Angle, John Cena, and Big Show that Kurt Angle had won, where the winner got a WWE Championship opportunity at WrestleMania. Because Brock Lesnar is no longer the WWE Champion, Chris Benoit could then choose the WWE Champion, while then Kurt Angle still has his championship opportunity, thus creating this triple threat match that may have actually been better than the one we got in the real timeline with Benoit, Michaels, and Triple H, which was already a fantastic match itself. And then when it comes to this match, I do see a world where Benoit doesn't walk out as the WWE Champion, but Eddie Guerrero still does. For 2005, the winner of the match was Batista, and in this case, he'd be going after the WWE Championship. So we are in a timeline where Triple H's narcissistic behavior works and convinces Batista to go after JBL and the WWE Championship Championship at WrestleMania 21. And just like the real timeline, I do see JBL losing the WWE Championship, but in this case to Batista, which then would lead to Monday Night Raw having both the WWE and World Heavyweight titles within the group of Evolution. And it's kind of hard to say how long Batista's reign could be, because there could be a chance that Batista is basically a transitional champion and would drop it to John Cena at the Judgment Day 2005 event, or when the actual draft happens and basically John Cena and Batista switch sides, Batista would bring the WWE Championship back to SmackDown and has this reign as a full-fledged heel. So then the group of Evolution would just quietly dissolve without that huge breakup we've seen on the road to WrestleMania in the real timeline. And when it comes to John Cena not being able to win the world title at WrestleMania, this would mean that he doesn't win his first world title until likely defeating Triple H in a match at SummerSlam 2005 for the World Heavyweight Championship. For 2006, the winner of the match was Rey Mysterio, and in this case, he'd be going after the WWE Championship. Now, I can only assume that a lot of you guys picked this idea because Santi Zap had done this exact same video last year. But unlike his video, I'm not going to guarantee that the world champions that actually went into those WrestleManias would actually still be those world champions. Because I think that if Rey Mysterio went after the WWE Championship, that Edge would have retained the WWE Championship at Royal Rumble against John Cena, thus setting up a Rey Mysterio versus Edge match for WrestleMania 22. Considering we are dealing with a situation that Rey Mysterio is going to try to win the World Championship in honor of Eddie Guerrero, but then we're also dealing with Big Match John, who is the face of the company at this point, and they don't want him losing clean at WrestleMania at this point. So the safe route would be to have Rey Mysterio against Edge in a one-on-one match where Rey Mysterio would win the WWE Championship from him at the event and would drop it shortly after. For 2007, the winner of the match was The Undertaker, which this was teased on an episode of Raw when choosing his match, so instead of Batista, he could have either went for John Cena in the WWE Championship or Bobby Lashley and the ECW Championship. Now, I will say, regardless of who Undertaker chooses, he would be walking out as a brand new world champion, especially keeping the undefeated WrestleMania streak alive. But if I were to choose one or the other of who I think Undertaker would have actually went after besides Batista, even though it would have been awesome for John Cena and The Undertaker to have had a WrestleMania match with both of them in their primes, I could see a world where they actually choose Undertaker versus Bobby Lashley for the sake that when Undertaker wins a world championship at WrestleMania, he's not walking out with a championship that actually looks more like a toy. For 2008's Royal Rumble, the winner was John Cena, and in this case, he would either be going for the World Heavyweight Championship or the ECW Championship. Now, I will say right now that John Cena would not be going for that ECW Championship, but when we see in the real timeline that Kane had beat Chavo Guerrero in 8 seconds, I think John Cena would have beaten Chavo Guerrero much quicker than 8 seconds, let's be real here. So the other option is for the World Heavyweight Championship, which I still think that Edge walks into WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion, giving us a one-on-one match between John Cena and Edge that we all wanted to happen at some point, even to the fact that WWE had tried doing this the year after at WrestleMania 25 until they inserted Big Show into the match to make it a triple threat. And this would have solved problems for what they were originally trying to do, because if John Cena had not returned early from injury, the original plan was for Triple H to win the Royal Rumble and finally have a one-on-one match at WrestleMania against Randy Orton, which they would have been able to do had they had John Cena choose either the World Heavyweight title or the ECW Championship. For 2009's Royal Rumble, the match was won by Randy Orton, which in this case, once again, he would either go after the World Heavyweight Championship or the ECW Championship. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's, let's say, Jack Swagger or perhaps Christian with the ECW Championship. Randy Orton would probably win the title at that event because he ain't losing to one of the guys from ECW. But I do see a scenario where, once again, he actually goes on to choose the World Heavyweight Championship in a scenario where John Cena actually retains the World Heavyweight Championship inside the Elimination Chamber match, thus setting up another match that we've never seen at WrestleMania, being a one-on-one match between Randy Orton and and John Cena. A match that I think some people are hoping will happen this year at WrestleMania 41 as a part of John Cena's retirement tour. For 2010's Royal Rumble, the winner was Edge, in which in this case he would go after the WWE Championship. Now, although in the real timeline we had seen a John Cena versus Batista match seeing Batista go in as the champion, I do see a scenario where that moment at Elimination Chamber doesn't happen, in which John Cena wins the WWE Championship without losing it that night, setting up a one-on-one match between Edge versus John Cena for the WWE Championship. Like I had mentioned, they tried doing this the year prior at WrestleMania 25, but just like the real timeline in both of the superstar scenarios, John Cena is walking out as WWE Champion and Edge doesn't win his World Championship match at WrestleMania 26. For 2011, the winner of the match was Alberto Del Rio, in which in this case he'd be going after the WWE Championship. Now in the real timeline, The Miz was walking into WrestleMania 27 as the WWE Champion, but to avoid the fact that we'd be getting a heel versus heel match, which is a very difficult dynamic to do unless in circumstances, but in this case Miz would lose his WWE Championship at Elimination Chamber to John Cena, and thus setting up an Alberto Del Rio versus John Cena match. And because we're pretty much still around the time of Super Cena, John Cena would retain the WWE Championship against Alberto Del Rio, considering that Alberto Del Rio also lost his match in the real timeline to Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. For 2012, the winner of the Royal Rumble was Sheamus, and in this case he'd be going after the WWE Championship, which then would mean of course that he's going after CM Punk at WrestleMania 28, and because CM Punk was in the middle of that 434-day reign, then of course CM Punk would be retaining the championship in this timeline like he did in the real timeline, and Sheamus wouldn't be winning a championship like he did from Daniel Bryan in 18 seconds with the World Heavyweight title. For 2013, the winner of the Royal Rumble was John Cena, and in this case he'd be going after the World Heavyweight Championship, which wouldn't make sense for John Cena to win the Royal Rumble at all in this case, because we knew that they were trying to set up The Rock versus John Cena Part 2 for the WWE Championship. But at least in this timeline, that would mean that once in a lifetime was indeed once in a lifetime. But this would probably lead to yet another John Cena versus Alberto Del Rio match, which just wouldn't have been that good. So honestly, I would rather have the real timeline instead of this timeline in this case. Now we skip all the way to 2017, because at the end of 2013, Randy Orton had unified both the WWE and World Heavyweight titles as one title. And when it came to the return of the draft in 2016, Dean Ambrose had brought the WWE Championship to the SmackDown brand, thus having Monday Night Raw create a brand new championship known as the Universal Championship, which for that Royal Rumble, it was won by Randy Orton, and in this case, he'd be going after the Universal Championship. And going into this specific timeline's WrestleMania, I see Kevin Owens still the Universal Champion. The only reason that Goldberg had won the Universal Championship from Owens at Fastlane was to put that specific title in the feud with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, and I don't think they would have really wanted to affect that feud by then inserting Randy Orton in this case to make it a triple threat match. And who knows of whether Randy Orton becomes the champion, even though he's exclusive to SmackDown at this point, or Kevin Owens retains and maybe we would get a Jericho Owens match at a different pay-per-view for the Universal Championship. We have opened up YouTube channel memberships. Now at the moment as this gets released, we only have one tier, which is only $1.99, which you get stuff like behind the scenes footage and photos. You get a shout out on every single episode of Pro Wrestling What If, and more importantly, you get early access 24 hours before anyone else does for every single episode of Pro Wrestling What If. Shoutout goes to Jackson Weingart, Jada Sanchez, Fox Starkiller, Mr. Randomizer, and Lola Pines for joining our YouTube channel membership. So definitely consider joining our YouTube channel membership. It'll be greatly appreciated, and hopefully there'll be enough people interested that we can open up more tiers, including eventually doing a tier with bonus content that you can't see otherwise. But let's get right back to the video. Now for 2018, we have both the men's and women's matches. So for the women's, the winner was Asuka, and in this case, she'd be going after the Raw Women's Championship, which there is a lot of positives to this because, of course, Asuka was already a part of the Raw brand, so she can easily choose her brand's championship. And she'd be going up against Alexa Bliss, who was the Raw Women's Champion going into WrestleMania 34 in the real timeline. And I do see a world where Asuka would have actually walked out as the champion, unlike the real timeline where Charlotte not only defeated her, but ended her undefeated streak, which that streak would still continue had Asuka went after the Raw Women's Championship. And then for the men's side of things, it was won by Shinsuke Nakamura, and in this case, he'd be going after the Universal Championship, which more than likely would mean we would have Shinsuke Nakamura versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. A match that people wish would have happened in WWE, considering it happened in New Japan Pro Wrestling back in 2005. So people were hoping that maybe because both of them were in the same company, we would revisit this match at some point, but that just never ended up happening. But had Shinsuke Nakamura chose the Universal Championship instead of the WWE Championship, we may have actually had this match. For 2019, the women's match was won by Becky Lynch, and in this case, she would go after the SmackDown Women's Championship. Now, of course, in the real timeline, she had went after the Raw Women's Championship because she wanted that one-on-one match with Ronda Rousey. And then the storyline happened of her getting suspended, and that opportunity was given to Charlotte Flair, and in the middle of that, Charlotte won the SmackDown Women's Championship, which then allowed the whole idea of a triple threat match where both the SmackDown and Raw Women's Championships were on the line, the winner takes all match that we've seen. So in this case, if Becky Lynch had chose the SmackDown Women's Champion, whether it ended up being Asuka going into it, or as I feel like it would be, Charlotte Flair winning, we could have gotten a one-on-one match between Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, and I just don't know if there would have been a way to still give us that triple threat women's main event for WrestleMania 35, and that Ronda Rousey would have a completely different opponent. And then for the men's side of things, Seth Rollins had won the match, which in this case, he would be going after the WWE Championship, which would have meant that we would have gotten Seth Rollins versus Daniel Bryan, which honestly, I wouldn't have been opposed to that, but it's unknown of whether Seth Rollins would have actually walked out as the WWE Champion in this match, considering that Seth Rollins was a Raw superstar while the WWE Championship was exclusive to the SmackDown brand. So maybe Daniel Bryan retains and they go with the original idea that was supposed to happen for this WrestleMania being a one-on-one match with a babyface Kevin Owens and a heel Daniel Bryan, with Kevin Owens winning the WWE Championship from Daniel Bryan at the following pay-per-view. For Royal Rumble 2020, the women's winner was Charlotte Flair, which gave her the opportunity of either the Raw Women's Championship or the SmackDown Women's Championship, because some people may forget that she didn't choose either of those titles. She went after Rhea Ripley and the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania 36, which regardless of who Charlotte Flair went after, whether it was, in this case, Becky Lynch and the Raw Women's Championship, or Bayley and the SmackDown Women's Championship, even though Charlotte had been feuding with Bayley throughout 2019 already, that it's almost a guarantee that no matter what championship it was, Charlotte Flair was walking out as the brand new women's champion of either brand after WrestleMania 36. And for the men's side of things, it was won by Drew McIntyre, which in this case, he's going after the Universal Championship. Now, this is where I think things would get pretty interesting, because even though Goldberg went into WrestleMania 36 as the Universal Champion, I actually think that they would have had The Fiend Bray Wyatt walk into WrestleMania 36 as the champion. And the reason Goldberg went into WrestleMania 36 as the champion was because of the original planned match of Roman Reigns versus Goldberg at WrestleMania 36. A match that basically could have only happened because Drew McIntyre ended up choosing Brock Lesnar and the WWE Championship. But had Drew McIntyre chose the Universal Championship instead, I don't think they would have had Bray Wyatt lose against Goldberg if that match was still happening at Super Showdown. And I do think, unfortunately for Drew McIntyre, that The Fiend would actually still retain the Universal Championship. For 2021's Royal Rumble, the women's side of things, it was won by Bianca Belair, which in this case, she would go after the Raw Women's Championship. Now, I think no matter who Bianca Belair was going after, I think it was inevitable, because she's basically a cornerstone of this new crop of women's talent, that she was going to walk out of WrestleMania 37 as as a women's champion. And for the men's side of things, Edge had won the match and he would go after the WWE Championship in this timeline, which I still see Bobby Lashley going into the match as the WWE Champion, because I feel that WWE would have been able to market this as spear versus spear, since that was the finisher of both competitors, but it would stay exactly the same, where Bobby Lashley would retain the championship and Edge doesn't end up walking out as a world champion. For 2022, the women's match was won by Ronda Rousey, which in this case she would go after the Raw Women's Championship. And this is the exact title that Ronda Rousey should have went after, considering we would have finally had the one-on-one match between Ronda Rousey and Becky Lynch. A match that was originally scheduled for Survivor Series 2018 until Becky Lynch had broken her nose by the hands of Nia Jax weeks before the event, thus leading to WWE having Charlotte Flair go up against Ronda Rousey instead, a match that they likely had planned for WrestleMania 35, hence how we had the triple threat match to cater towards both Becky facing Ronda and still having Charlotte and Ronda in a match at WrestleMania. For the men's side of things, it was won by Brock Lesnar, which in this case he'd be going after the WWE Championship. Now, Brock Lesnar was a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble at Entry 30, and although he did declare that he's going to challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, he did end up competing in the Elimination Chamber match due to the fact that it was his rematch clause, since he did drop the WWE Championship to Bobby Lashley before entering the Royal Rumble match. And with Brock Lesnar ending up winning the WWE Championship, this would allow him to still compete for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania, thus having the winner takes all match and unifying both of the championships. But had Brock Lesnar challenged for the WWE Championship instead, this would mean that he would not compete in the Elimination Chamber match, and that another match between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley would happen at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns would have a different opponent and both world championships wouldn't be unified at the end of the night. For 2023, the winner of the women's match was Rhea Ripley, and in this case she would go after the Raw Women's Championship. Now, in 2022, Rhea Ripley had reinvented her character with the formation of the group Judgment Day, and it seemed like it was destined that one way or another Rhea Ripley was going to walk out as a women's champion at WrestleMania, and with going after the Raw Women's Championship, this would mean that she would go after Bianca Belair, a person that she has not had a one-on-one match, at least on the main roster, with. The only time they did face off one-on-one throughout WWE was during their days on the NXT brand. And when it comes to the men's side of things, there was only one title to go after, since, like I mentioned, at WrestleMania 38, both the WWE and Universal Championships were unified as one. And last but not least, for 2024, the women's match was won by Bayley, and in this case, she would go after the Women's World Championship. Now, first things first is that Bayley wouldn't have been kicked out of Damage Control, and it seemed like no matter who Rhea Ripley was going to face at WrestleMania, that she would retain the championship, as she would hit 1 year during her reign as champion, the same championship that she won the prior year at WrestleMania 39. And for the men's side of things, it was won by Cody Rhodes, in which in this case, he would be going after the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, this scenario did seem like it almost became a reality, Cody Rhodes hugging The Rock and giving him his opportunity at Roman Reigns. This would mean we would have Rhodes versus Rollins 4 at WrestleMania 40 for the World Heavyweight Championship, and although the most likely scenario would be for Cody Rhodes to win the World Championship and I guess finish the story, that isn't exactly the story that he was achieving. It's not the exact title that his dad had originally won back in the 1970s. That specific WWE Championship is the one that Roman Reigns would be holding, and that WWE would have finally been able to do the one-on-one match between Roman Reigns and The Rock for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship.